All right, so these are infant-specific food activities. We kind of talked about one with the pincer, so that could be related to the food. But another one would be how we do infant feeding. So this actually is something I did not include in the manual, but I think infant lead weaning is a really great topic of conversation to have. Something I probably will end up adding to the manual. It wasn't something I really knew that much about when I wrote it. So, is everyone obviously you are. Is everyone familiar with what that means? Infant lead weaning?
I've actually never heard it.
So instead of using pureed foods for infants, you basically give them like really mushy foods to eat where they use their whole hand to pick it up and eat it that way. So like things like avocado or really cooked sweet potatoes,
Bananas.
bananas.
Like that. And you just slice it up in a way. The point of baby led weaning, not the point, but a lot of it is you sit at a table with them and you're modeling how to eat, and so you never feed a baby.
Oh, well, I did that.
Yeah, you just give them whatever you're eating, but like modified version of it.
Yeah. Okay,
Yes. And something large enough to where they can pick it up with their hand.
Yeah. And you just skip
versus having to
purees.
use a spoon.
So, yes, I'm familiar with it. Then. I just didn't.
I
didn't know
know.
what it was called.
A lot of
did
times, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think what they have found is that infants transition to table food easier that way because they're not used to like basically liquids all the time, where you get with purees. And it's just easier for parents too because they just eat what you eat.
As opposed to buying or making baby food.
Yeah.
And you can still do yogurts and applesauces and stuff like that. You just give them a preloaded spoon. Like at first, you would give them a preloaded spoon.
Yeah, so that's more of what, if you read the manual with using utensils is the activity. And so rather than what we would typically do where you put the spoon in the baby's mouth, especially if they're younger and they're using purees, it's more of an invitation for them to take the spoon. Some babies won't, and that's okay, but you don't want to put the spoon in their mouth. You want to invite them to take the food into their own mouth.
Yeah.
So you would just put it up to their lips. And then they open and they lean forward and they take the food.
Yeah.
Or if they do grab the spoon, then you let them have it. Like, you don't expect them to scoop their food and feed it to themselves, but if you put it to their lips, they either eat it or they take the spoon and then they make a mess of it, or they put it in their mouth and they get some food. At any age of infancy, milk is going to be their number one source of nutrition.
Yeah.
And so if they don't eat all of their food, it's not the end of the world, especially if you're starting this like close to 6 months. Now, if we get closer to like 10, 11 months and they're not eating very well, then obviously we have some other issues there. But the first introduction to food should be an invitation and not a forced thing.
Exploration.
Yes, exactly. I think that a lot of parents have the misconception that eating table food will help them sleep through the night better.
No.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad you don't. I'm glad you don't.
It makes it worse because then sometimes their tummies get upset and like.
Yeah, there's lots of things that can happen with that. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but this is the way that we would encourage parents to introduce foods to their kids. For here specifically, we always recommend that parents feed new food items to their kids at least twice at home, just to make sure that there are no poor reactions to it before we serve it at school. But those are the two main things: just putting it in front of the child's mouth and inviting them to take a bite or to take the spoon. And then as they get older, especially if you're still using more like purees or like chunky foods that require a spoon, is to just hand them the spoon. So no longer invite them with the mouth, but just more so turn the spoon their direction so that they can take it and feed themselves. Did you enjoy that meal? Was that good? I'm glad you liked that. And then obviously eventually into actually scooping the food out of the bowl and into their mouth. Or if you're using baby led weaning, then you're not going to have to worry about the mess because, well, they'll still be
It'll be very messy.
Never mind, I don't know why I said it like that. The mess of the bowl and the spoon.
The mess of the dishes.
The dishes mess, yes.
It's a little messy.
It does.
It was a little discouraging.
Very messy. Actually, you'll see the mess when you watch the video of Hawkins doing this next thing.
Really?
Yeah, I have another video that I'm going to post for you guys. So the other aspect that you would introduce is drinking from an open-faced cup. So the goal is to go straight from bottles to cups, avoiding sippy cups altogether. They're not good for a child's teeth to use long term, and it's better if they just use an open face cup. Obviously, we use water bottles for various things, which is fine. But it is possible for an infant to drink out of a cup instead of drinking out of a sippy cup. And so these types of containers work really great. This is actually a ramekin used for condiments, but it's the perfect size for a little hand to grip. You can use both hands on it. Another thing that works really great is a shot glass. That's what I used. Plastic
Paper
shot
cups.
glasses. Paper cups work.
Little
Yeah,
Dixie
you guys
cups.
have been using paper cups.
Yeah.
My only hesitation with that is they can crush them pretty easily. So if we could get some more of these kind of containers, I think you guys would find more success.
Yeah.
You can even use glass, shot glasses. Obviously, real materials are preferred over plastic, but if they're sitting in a high chair way off the ground and they drop on shot glass, I wasn't really willing to see what would happen. And I didn't have the metal ones. I didn't know about these until later.
Yeah, those are great.
But just the very first time, a very, very small amount of liquid. The infant doesn't know what's going to happen when they tilt it up, so it's just going to go all over the place, which is fine. But we also don't want to choke them with too much liquid. So very, very little amount. Once they get used to the idea, obviously we don't want to do too much either because they'll probably end up spilling it all over the place. So just giving them very small amounts of water in the cup is great. I would not put their breast milk in a cup like this. Unless they're really proficient, because they do rely, or bottle formula either, because they do rely on that as their primary source of sustenance. So you don't want to mess with that getting into the system. But it's a great practice tool, and then hopefully by the time they get to the toddler classroom, they're proficient enough to use open face cups at all the meals. Any thoughts or questions about